This podcast is a member of WildGamesProductions.com and D20Radio.com.
I'm Chuck Norris, and I approve this game.
Between the time when gamers played with miniatures and chainmail and the rise of the Wizards of the Coast, there was an age of advanced role-playing undreamed of. And onto the Skygas, destined to bear the jeweled crown of TSR upon a troubled brow, it was given to teach us all how to roll for initiative.
Ladies and gentlemen, let's get ready to rumble!
This is the Roll for Initiative podcast, the volume number 3, issue 36. DM Vince sitting with DM Nick.
Howdy, howdy, howdy.
And DM Chad.
Hey, yo!
DM Matt is off this week. He's doing his own DM Matt things. So, so hopefully you guys have been enjoying the 2014 edition of our show. You know, we had 2 shows, Record of Lodos, and then we had the Contessa, and then we had the talk about play by email and play by post that Chad and I went into great detail, and Nick somehow wasn't on the show, I think.
I was there. I was just listening. I mean, a lot of it was new information. I'd never done like play by post or play by email. So,
yeah, I'm surprised you haven't done that in all the years of being online and gaming.
No, you know, I just never really wanted to play that way. I like face to face.
Oh, yeah.
You know, that's just the way how I roll.
Yeah, you know, it's really not for everybody. A lot of people I know aren't into that, and you know, it's just one of those things. Some people do, and some people don't.
Yeah. Sometimes if you can't find a game, you got to get your fix somehow.
That is true. I've read that from many forums where they say, you know what, I live out here in such and such area because I moved there and I can't find any place to game. That's why it's for somebody like that, it's a great tool to have.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like methadone for face-to-face.
I would say a tool, not a drug, but hey, you want to go that route, fine.
Well, when I was living in Pennsylvania, I had a problem finding groups big time, and then when that group kind of fell apart, and I had nobody, so I had to start playing online.
Right.
So I went into playing all my games on Roll20 and everything. So, I mean, it wasn't the best thing, but at least I still had fun, still able to DM, so.
Absolutely.
Oh, yeah, exactly.
And previous to that, I mean, in the past, back before we had things like Roll20 and the ability to get on Skype all the time, you know, you would just do play by email, play by post.
Right.
Yeah, so there. So this weekend, past the start of my Shadowrun game.
And how did that go?
Good. There was 3 of us that showed up. The 4th person couldn't make it. But the GM was fine with that because he was his first time GMing the game himself. So we got into some trouble because my character owns a bar, nightclub / strip club.
Hey, all right.
Yeah, so it's in the dive area.
Aren't they all kind of the same thing in a way?
No, not really.
Well.
So apparently this gang that he made up called the Thumbs Up Gang.
The Thumbs Up Gang?
Yeah, and they have the little patch on their jacket with the little thumbs up.
Sounds a little too clean.
Hey.
Sounds like a gang from like the 1920s. Yeah, we're the Thumbs Up Gang. Hey,
yeah.
How's it going, guys?
I imagine all these. I imagine a bunch of guys who just venerate the fawns.
Yeah. That'd be more like the 60s, I thought, right?
50s.
Yeah. 50s? 60s, whatever.
As long as you don't jump the shark.
Just don't jump any sharks.
Yeah, so we had a great time. The adventure started off with the Thumbs Up Gang trying to extort money from the bar, and we wound up having a shootout. And
well, doesn't every Shadowrun game end up in a shootout anyway?
Yeah, and then our street samurai wound up getting arrested because he was just acting stupid when the police showed up. So he got arrested, and my character didn't press charges because he tried to break back into the bar after leaving the bar when I needed help. So,
hey, you don't have to go home, but you can't stay here.
Yeah,
that's right.
And then we found there was some type of plot that we uncovered with a shadow military group next door jamming the Matrix, and they were trying to recover some Some type of, we think it's some type of research that was in the research lab at the top building next door in the middle of the ghetto, of course.
Sure, of course.
Because every
Where
research
else would
lab,
you put a research facility?
Every research lab is in the middle of the ghetto.
Right.
Yeah, but one of us almost got, our rigger almost got killed, but I'm playing a decker, and I escaped fine along with the rigger at the end, so. Fun game.
You're playing like the guy who's surfing the web, huh?
Yeah, I'm the hacker.
You're the techie, huh?
Yeah.
Your character's like, this is so awesome.
No.
I'm surfing the web.
No.
No?
No, I'm like one of those cool combat deckers. So.
See, I would be like totally the opposite. He would have the voice just like this.
Like Stu Goldman from The Family Guy?
Yes.
Or Neil Goldman, I should say. Yeah. Okay. So what about you, Nick? What have you been doing?
Just trying to ramp up a little bit more on my campaign. I'm ready to start DMing again for my regular group, I think. I've been doing a little more work, research on my campaign of using the anomalous subsurface environment. The one that's kind of a gonzo kind of mix of science, super science and sorcery. Thinks Thundar the Barbarian. And the pilot episode of Korgoth of Barbaria, and you're pretty much there.
Oh.
So, so it's going to be like that. I'm going to be using first edition AD&D rules, but for psionics, I'm not going to use the psionics rules. I'm just going to use the mental abilities chart out of Gamma World, and it's a lot easier.
Yeah. Sure.
I've tried psionics. I'm like, no.
You guys know where I stand on that, but that's all right.
Yeah, I just can't. It's just too much of a headache trying to work out the psionic rules in AD&D for me. So I'm just going to port over stuff from Gamma World, and I'm going to try to run it as loosey-goosey as possible. Just kind of run it off the cuff and see how things go. Not a whole lot of stuff pre-done. I'm just going to go with basic plot, basic premise of certain things, and I'm just going to go from there. I'm going to really just get out of my comfort zone and try something new.
Try something new. Why don't you try like 4th edition? That's new.
I said new, not crazy new.
Oh, okay. Aw.
That's just silly.
That's just crazy talk. I don't know what the heck you're talking about here.
And what about you, Mr. Chad?
Well, I started a new job this week, so that's kept me kind of busy having to navigate my way into Chicago every morning. But this weekend, I did try to get my play-by-post game rev back up again, because in transitioning from jobs, it kind of stalled out there for about a month. But we're revving it back up again, and the characters are all starting to post again, and as they make their way through the 9 hells.
Yes. I'm supposed to be joining that campaign as soon as I can get my butt in gear.
Yes, and whenever you're ready, we'll work out a character.
Yes, I think I'm playing a barbarian. I'm pretty sure about that.
On a barbarian in hell, that should be fun.
Bobby the Barbarian goes to hell.
Well, since I can't play the Cavalier, so. Because it ruins the campaign.
He's not into the Cavalier class. That's kind of like my psionics there. I don't do the Cavalier because I let a player do a Cavalier one time, and that's when I realized where all these, I'd always heard a lot of other DMs talk about how, I hate it when I have to run one of the players as a Cavalier because they can kind of imbalance the game. And I was like, I could do it. So I let the guy play it, and sure enough, every time we got together to play, he was telling me about a new way that his character was, and it's per the book. And I was like, yeah, all right.
Well, were you using the book, or were you using the Dragon magazine that corrected the book?
Oh, we were using the book. We didn't use the Dragon magazine.
That's why. If you use the Dragon magazine, it makes the class way less powerful than what's in the book.
Yeah, what was that Dragon magazine article, by the way?
Don't know offhand. I actually have the class printed out because I was using it. It was.
I'll have to take a look. You know what? I think I do know what issue that is. I'll take a quick gander.
Yeah, offhand, I don't know, but I have corrected it, and it makes the class very, very less powerful.
Yeah.
Well, give it a read. Well, maybe.
Yeah, it drops the hit dice for one, drops a lot of the negative level stuff that the class has, and good things. So definitely give it a try. Also, I meant to say to you guys this week when I was cleaning up and rearranging my my loft here, my man cave. Like, Nick, you have a man cave too now, right?
I certainly do. I'm in it right now. The Fortress of Solitude.
Yes.
I as well.
So we all have our man caves. Well, I was rearranging my man cave of my books, and I came across 2 books that I don't remember buying. I must have bought them at Gen Con, but it was called Cult. Anyone remember that game?
I've heard of it.
You got me on that one.
I understand it's pretty dark.
I stumped Chad.
Yeah, you got me on that one. I know there's a game out there, I believe it's called Witchcraft, but you got me on Cult.
Yeah, I wasn't sure. There was 2 books. Cult and Legions of Darkness was the supplement that came with it. I had a rubber band around it. I must have bought it at Gen Con for a couple bucks, thinking it was part of something World of Darkness, but apparently it's its own game. And now I'll be perusing through that this week, because I'm kind of interested in what it's all about.
Yeah, let us know what you think.
Oh, I will. I definitely will.
And they'll come back like, why did I buy this? No.
Yeah. Well, there's a couple things I found. I found also the module that Jason and I bought Gen Con 2010 when that guy tried to put the AD&D and TSR logos on his module.
Yeah, I got one of those too, yes.
I remember that.
Do you have the first printing or do you have the second one?
I had the first printing, I think.
Okay, because the first printing had the actual Advanced Dungeons & Dragons logo on it.
Yes.
And it was called TSR1.
Yes.
As the module number. But the bonus I have is the guy signed it for me.
I remember reading through the adventure. It really isn't that...
There's, like, massive typos and stuff in there.
Yeah, and it's not that great. No. I mean, it's not like, the Forced Oracle one that, oh my God, that was just, ugh.
We couldn't stop laughing on that one, too. No, this is just as laughable, but not as bad.
Yeah.
I think I'm just going to hold it as a memento piece, because the guy had to change it, apparently, after all.
Yes, curiosity, if anything.
Yeah. Maybe we should do a review of it one show.
Maybe.
Definitely a good idea. Okay, cool. So anyway, why don't we head into... we have no stars this week, Nick, right?
None, because nobody cares.
Nobody 2014 starred us yet.
No, we haven't had any since October. Just saying that, everybody out there, none since October.
Well,
Come on, people, let's go.
We are backlogged in shows, so probably the shows of you saying, give us a star, haven't come out yet.
Oh, okay. Well, keep going.
Yeah, keep going.
Come on, people.
All right, let's head into some sage advice.
Sage advice.
Sage advice this week. We have a voicemail and we have an email. But I'm going to play the voicemail first. But in case you're wondering, you could always pick up your phone and dial 570-865-4210, the hotline. And it'll get you directly to us. Pretty much anybody can call and you can speak as long as you want. It's not a Google thing. It's a Skype voicemail, and it's pretty good quality, so you don't have to worry about it. So,
but please don't ramble.
Yes, ramble only because Nick says no.
Well, thanks.
So sit back, relax, and we'll play the voicemail.
Hey, this is Jacob Nelson, fan of the show. Not really calling in for a question, do apologize. I'm just curious if you might know about a recent play called Requiem for a Dungeon Master. Bloom Street Theater, Madison, Wisconsin, going to do a retelling of Gary Gygax's life. Company kept, not really life, the beginnings of the Dungeons & Dragons game. I don't really know how in-depth it really goes because there's a lot of sparse information at this point. I only really know about as much as another podcast gave, sorry. I listen to a lot of podcasts called Mad Stage Podcast, and it's going to be interesting. Starting tonight, looking forward to it. Just want to see if I can spread as much information about it as possible because, again, information is sparse. I'm sure the publicity is as well, and I think you guys are a good avenue for it because Dungeons & Dragons, I enjoy listening to you guys talk about the old game, and third edition developed myself, sorry, but I've always been meaning to go into other avenues of gaming, learning to play in different fashions and going back to the original rules I intend to do at some point, and hearing how it all plays out is really great fun, and turning the ideas even into rules I do understand. So keep up the good work. Enjoy the show. Bye.
So, we have a 3rd edition player listening to us.
Well, nobody's perfect. But anyway, no.
So, yeah, nobody's perfect. But to answer his question, has anyone heard for Requiem for a Dungeon Master? I've actually not heard of that. So
I have not heard of that either, but it sounds interesting. So it's like an on-stage kind of production.
Yeah. Why don't we see if we could stump Chad? Chad, have you ever heard of it?
What is it again?
Requiem from a Dungeon Master.
No, I haven't.
Okay.
Oh, you stumped me a lot today.
I don't know, Chad. You still have another 30 seconds.
I'd have to scramble on my internet.
Come on, Chad. You have 22 seconds.
You want to phone a friend? Or
yeah, can I phone a friend?
You have 10 seconds.
Is it anything like Interview with the Vampire?
3, 2. I'm sorry. You lose. Courtesy of Who Wants to Be a Millionaire sound effects.
Oh my God.
Why not? It's funny.
It is.
Yeah, well.
No, actually, I've not heard of
that. Sounds interesting.
Yeah, I definitely have to keep an eye on that and see what's going on with it. I've never heard of it myself. But thought Chad would have, so.
Do I get any parting gifts?
No. You get to spend an afternoon with Nick.
Hey, all right. Do I get any other gifts?
No. Too much more gifts. Sorry. Anyway, thank you for the voicemail and giving us a heads up. We hope you do look into playing 1st edition. We're glad you listen anyway.
Yes, so go out now and buy your books.
Yes, they're pretty cheap, especially if you buy the original books and not the new prints.
Not the reprints, yes.
Yeah, that are, not cool.
Or if you get the ones that have to be changed after their initial printing.
Yeah, well, those ones too, yeah.
I got the reprints. I like them.
I don't know. I'm glad they've reprinted them, but I don't know. They just look weird. Again, I'm going to go with that. And yes, many people who are in my face-to-face gaming group who listen to the show are like, I don't know what you're talking about. They're fine. Especially, I'm talking about Mike. He knows who he is. And he says they're fine.
And you know who you are.
Yeah, he knows who he is. And he said they were fine, and we put the books side by side. I'm like, dude, just look at it. There's something different. I don't know what it is. Maybe because of the way it's printed and the typeface is different, or maybe because the paper these days and printing is a little bit different. I don't know.
Yeah, there is a different paper quality for certain. I mean, besides obvious covers, there's a different quality of the paper. It's not it's a different mill quality.
Yeah, it's not that heavy kind of paper that they used. The kind of coarser, heavy paper.
Well, I think the difference is, and I could be completely wrong on this, but if you remember all the stuff that was printed for 1st edition, I think even 2nd edition too, they had that deal with Random House back in the day. Well, Gary Gygax, he was able to talk with Random House, the publisher there. And, Random House is like one of the largest publishers in the world. And he wanted a quality that was equivalent to like a textbook. He wanted textbook quality books made that would last, that would get thrown in a backpack or something like that, and it could withstand the test of time.
Well, yeah, because people will be referencing these books constantly, so he wanted the paper to hold up.
Exactly, and his in was, if I remember this correctly, I remember reading it somewhere that one of the people at Random House, their son played D&D, so that was kind of the in for him on getting the Random House deal, and that was huge. So, and it's a different paper quality. I mean, if you look at textbooks and stuff from that time, I mean, it's a different quality of paper material.
Well, I could definitely.
Yeah, but if you do want to make it more reminiscent of the original printings, just eat some pizza, drop a little bit on the pages, maybe
spill some
chips, get some grease stains. That's the look.
Yeah, you got to spill some Mountain Dew on it.
Yeah, but it has to be throwback Mountain Dew. So.
Yes, absolutely.
Can't be regular Mountain because that's not what we used back then. So
no, it's got to be the throwback.
Could be Jolt Cola though. We drank a lot of Jolt Cola.
Oh my God, yes. Can you still find that?
Yeah,
I have no idea.
Jolt Cola is actually an energy drink now. They're just called Jolt.
Oh.
Then there was another one called Nitro too, and it'd get you juiced up.
I remember when Coke was able just to do that by itself. Coca-Cola.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, back in the day.
Those were the days.
But I noticed books today, not talking about Wizard of the Coast, just books in general from gaming companies, tend to fall apart a lot.
Yes, you're absolutely right.
I mean, because they're making books bigger, obviously, because everything's becoming more rules intensive. Mm-hmm. And, like, for example, the Shadowrun book. That book is huge. It's like 500 pages or something, almost 600. I'm not sure offhand. But my first book that I bought, already the first 10 pages were falling out.
Yeah, what was it? I think I got this, I think it was the 30th or 25th anniversary edition of Call of Cthulhu.
That thick one, yeah. Uh-huh.
And it's got the reproduction of the original box for the cover.
Yeah.
Yeah, my first, I want to say 30 pages are coming out. The binding is, the gluing for the binding is not holding.
Yeah, same thing with me. My 5th edition Call of Cthulhu is just it's like the first 30 pages because obviously that's the character generation pages, so you're really hitting those probably most often. And mine literally some of the pages are already out. They're just kind of in there, you know.
Yeah, and I'm not going to say it's not thick books too, because I had 2 books for Legend of the Five Rings, the core books for 4th edition, and they're not that big of books. They're about Dungeon Master size thickness, probably. Mm-hmm. And I've already gone through 2 of them with them falling apart and having to contact AEG, who gladly replaced the books, but it's just, they keep falling apart.
Yeah, I was like that 25th anniversary of Call of Cthulhu. I was like really happy to get it, and it's like big as the Dungeon Master's guide, and it's hardbound. You would think, okay, this is going to last me. First 30 pages they just pulled. I would say within about a couple of years. Yeah. Pulled away from the gluing for those first of the 30 pages, pulled away from the binding, and it's because it's glue.
Yeah, exactly.
They don't. Back in the
even
through the 80s and maybe even in the 90s or early 90s, if you look at the bindings, like the binding on I think the DMG, it's not just glue, but there's a
threading.
Threading through the glue.
Yeah.
And it just binds better.
Yeah, it does.
So
I wonder if it's
cheaper printing processes and.
There was one upside to my Cthulhu book falling apart, and that was when I went to Gen Con a couple of years ago. I was getting ready to start a Call of Cthulhu adventure, and I was reviewing a few things in my book, and one of the guys who just sat down at the table was like, well, that's not a good sign when our GM is reading the rules. And I looked up, I said, dude, look at this book. Do you think this is the first time I've cracked it open as pages are falling out?
I just love that when you get the smart-ass people like that that sit at your table at conventions. It's like, go away.
Yeah, it turned out okay, though. At the end of the game, he actually came over and was, complimenting me on the game. I was like, oh, thank you. But
that's cool.
But see, it sets your players, if they're new players, it sets them at ease to see your book literally falling apart.
Surprisingly, out of all books that are huge books, the Pathfinder Core rulebook has not fallen apart since I bought it in, when did it come out, 2010? No, 9, right? I think that's when they came out with Pathfinder. But that book is still fine. Never had a problem with it. Which is surprising compared to, I don't know, maybe it's the quality of the company that would they pick. I don't know.
Yeah, it all depends now who they pick to do their printing and how they... the whole process that they use. I mean, who's to say?
Well, they just don't build books like they used to.
Back in my day, they were using steel.
Yes, we used to take 2 pieces of wood and glue them together and color it a book.
All right, now let's listen to some public radio. I'm kidding.
Oh, God. We're listening to some public radio here.
I think I'll just take a bite of my cookie now.
Yes, take a bite of my cookie. It's delicious.
This episode is brought to you by Snap Happy Crackle Crackers.
Just try to snap into just one.
Oh, my gosh.
Yeah, we took that on a tangent there. Anyway, so we have one email this week. We've pretty much cleared out our emails, so I've been trying to spread them out a little bit to get them read on the show. This one comes from Adam. He says, thanks for everything you do, putting out such a fantastic podcast. I love the show. Keep it going. There's no end to how much you can say about first edition AD&D. The DM's guide describes the manufacture of potions by 7th level or higher magic users on page 116. The most common potions used in the game's IDM are healing potions, but it seems counterintuitive to allow magic users to create potions to heal when their magic cannot heal. I suppose that even though healing magic is a preview of clerics, magic users might have knowledge of arcane procedures to concoct healing potions. So I guess I can wrap my head around that, but in games you DM, do you also allow clerics and druids to create healing potions at 7th level? I am running a weekly Greyhawk game that now has a 7th level cleric, and I want to be fair to him. If you do allow clerics or druids to create potions, do you require them to work with an alchemist, a magic user must do until level 11? And what kind of cost and time do you require to create the healing potions? Happy gaming. Thanks, Adam.
Good question. Wow.
Well, Christopher Walken's here to answer your question.
Yeah, it's potions that heal. Magic users, they do what the hell they want. Fireballs in your face.
God. Watch me make a volcano.
Yes. I don't know.
I'm pretty easygoing with the whole make potions as long as you find an alchemist and you can study herbalism. But they're not as powerful as regular potions. I would say there'd be like, you get like a D4 back for hit points.
That is kind of an oddity, though. It's like, clerics get healing. They could do cure light wounds or cure serious or whatever it is, but yet magic users, it's a potion of healing is considered a magic user creation.
Well, because it kind of makes sense in a way. Because healing is going through faith, and the magic user potion is just a concoction of magical herbs and stuff they put together. So,
now in that respect, yes, it does make sense.
Aha.
Yeah, it really it's how you define the potion and what it's doing, I think. I have no problem with clerics and druids creating healing potions because in my game, they're not using alchemy to do this. It's more like, a variation of holy water. This is blessed water that gives the divinities life-giving powers, through it. As opposed to, and like Vince said, I think that would be more powerful because you're kind of getting it from the wellspring of where, the gods are where life came from to begin with. So you're getting it kind of from the wellspring of life, whereas what the magic users are doing and the alchemists, they're trying to copy this to the best of their ability, but I think it would not have. I don't think I would allow. I've never actually had a magic user, a running player, ask me if they could make a healing potion. So, but now it's a good question, and the way I would probably run it is okay. They could make cure light wounds, but nothing more than that.
Yeah, I get it all the time. Every time I have a game, there's always one player in my group that's always like, "Oh, can I create healing potions if I find a book of herbalism?" So I got to run through that.
Yeah.
Say, okay, what level is he? Oh, he's only 4th level right now. Well, then you got to wait till he's 7th. Aha.
Right, and again, I wouldn't let it go past really cure light wounds because herbalism, it's like real medicine, I guess. It's not magical, it's using science and they're still going to need that time to recuperate, and we're talking like a poultice or something like that, but a poultice made out of moss and pig's foot isn't going to have the potency say from the blessed waters of of St. Cuthbert.
Well, that's.
I was just thinking St. Cuthbert.
Well, that's how you do 1d4 for mine. So.
Yeah, and so that that's about what I was saying. So.
Yeah, except I said it in less words. No, I'm kidding.
Exactly.
All right, cool. If you want to write into us, it's rfistaff@gmail.com, and my voice is definitely going for some reason. And 570-865-4210, the hotline, where you can call and Nick will answer the phone.
No, I won't.
Why not?
I have one of my kids answer.
Oh, God. They won't take a message. You know how kids are.
Oh, God, that's true. Okay, I'll answer it.
Okay. So let's head into some table matters.
Typical. Of all the evil creatures in the world, I like to find one with table manners.
What, are you kidding me? I spent years cultivating the worst table manners on the planet.
Table manners.
And now table manners. So for today's issue, we're going to be discussing those magic items that can either make or break a campaign, and oftentimes they do the latter. So we are, of course, talking about artifacts and relics.
Oh, I thought we were talking about ladders for a second. Sorry.
Oh, well, maybe it's the ladder of St. Cuthbert.
The
ladder of the gods. The
Yes,
stairway to heaven.
Bad.
We need magical ladders in the game. There aren't any.
Wasn't that rope trick or something?
Well, artifacts and relics, now, when you say artifacts and relics to most DMs, they're going to get a concerned look on their face because...
Maybe a nervous twitch or two?
Yeah, their eye might start twitching. And if they introduce it into the game, the player's eyes might start twitching. But artifacts and relics are probably, well, not probably, they are the most powerful magic items that you're ever going to run across in a game. And as such, they take considerably more preparation to prepare on the part of the DM, because he's now going to have to gauge how that particular artifact and the powers that it possesses, both benign and malevolent, are going to affect his overall campaign. In my own games, I tend to use artifacts and relics more as a campaign hook in themselves, as opposed to simply something you find in a room. How do you guys do it?
Campaign hook myself.
I gotta be honest, I've never used artifacts and relics in my campaigns.
Well, a lot of DMs haven't, and it's because you're talking about, say, the the Eye of Vecna or the Codex of the Infinite Planes. There's only one of them in the entire world.
In fact, the book even says if you use it in your campaign, cross it out in the book. Like, actually put a line through it in your book. I'm like, whoa, all right. I don't remember reading that, but all right.
Yeah, well, the reasoning is that if it's already been used once, then it must already be someplace. It's not going to be a random find, most likely.
Right.
Now, there are some that could be there's one I can think of off the top of my head, the Wand of Orcus, which, when it's not with Orcus himself, he does like to just kind of drop it into the prime material plane to see what kind of chaos it'll wreak before he reclaims it. But for the most part, if it's already been introduced into your campaign, then it's already someplace that you probably know about, and therefore not very likely to be a random find.
Maybe not.
No.
Because if you look on the tables for miscellaneous magic, table 1, if you roll a 17, artifact or relic.
Right, but we're saying, though, say you've already introduced Baba Yaga's hut.
Right.
So you need to cross that one out, not all the artifacts and relics. It's just,
Right.
According to the rules, in a situation like that, say they rolled Baba Yaga's hut, but you've already introduced that in an earlier session, then, according to the book, it's either a clue leading you back to where Baba Yaga's hut is, or it's nothing. You don't find anything.
Right.
So, and here's another thing with the artifacts and relics. finding a clue to where one is just about as big a deal, if not bigger, than actually finding another type of more mundane magical item. Because even finding clues to where a artifact or relic is something that, according to the DMG, should take up, perhaps an entire adventure. So it's not like, oh, well, it's just a clue. Well, trying to get a clue about where Queen Alicia's Marvelous Nightingale is, you're going to pay out the nose if you go to a sage or somebody with great divination skills, because even they are probably not going to be able to just say, oh, it's right here, but they might be able to give you clues to where it is. And that's going to take some of the most powerful divination spells just to get those clues.
But then they may go try to find it themselves anyway and give you the wrong clue.
Yeah.
Very possible. If they, if it's something, that they feel that, oh my gosh, I would love to have this. They may give you misinformation, and now maybe they're on the track. Maybe you have a competitor to find it, and now the timetable, the clock is ticking. Who will get there first? Or perhaps if it's a very wealthy sage, maybe he says, look, perhaps I could pay you to find it for me.
Mm-hmm.
So a couple different variations on how you can do that, but I definitely do believe, I think I said in an earlier episode that my view on dragons is that they're kind of a penultimate creature that you can fight. Well, I think artifacts and relics are penultimate items that you can find, and as such, they're going to require a lot of thought and preparation on the part of the DM to introduce into his campaign. They should not, and in fact it says in the DMG, they're never going to just be look, in that corner somebody dropped the hand of Vecna. Oh, wait, that's not really going to happen.
And here's his eye under this dust.
Where's the head of Vecna at?
You find the weirdest things when you clean your closet.
Yeah. We definitely find the weirdest.
Here's the left foot of Vecna.
Exactly. So aside from the fact of the preparation that's required to place a campaign, the DMG is another thing that sets them apart from all the other magic items you're going to find in the DMG is the fact that you will notice when you look at them that the majority of the powers are split, are not even listed. They're blank lines with a list of tables at the back. I believe there are 5 tables, and they encompass minor benign powers, major benign powers, minor malevolent powers, major malevolent powers, and prime powers.
And then side effects. Things and those minor malevolent powers, which usually crop up after just owning the item for a certain amount of weeks, which is generally rolled to determine, can do anything from as petty as turning the character's hair white to actually disfiguring them horribly, or maybe they become deaf, and we haven't even gotten into the major malevolent powers, which could turn you, which could simply turn you into a demon or maybe a lesser servitor of a god, who then comes down and collects you, and your campaigning days for that character are over.
Mm-hmm.
So just these are real tricky, There's something that got to be very careful about. Now, some players might say, well, okay, I'm going to get around that. I have a hireling, and I'm going to give him the item and let him figure out all the bad stuff while I study him. And that's not really going to work either, because the DMG lays out very explicitly how to handle a situation like that. And generally speaking, based on the hireling's alignment, they're either going to be consumed by the greed for the item and kill your character to keep possession of it, run away with it, or they may even say, this thing needs to be destroyed, and again, try to run away or kill your character, or they perhaps just, about the best you can hope for is that they know, they realize how you've tried to use them, and you lose a hireling.
Oh.
Yeah.
Hirelings are a dime a dozen.
They're a dime a dozen, except for when they're holding the orb of dragon kind.
Well, why would you let the hireling hold that? I mean, that's crazy talk.
What if it was Nodwick?
Crazy.
Well, then that's really crazy. Well, Nodwick getting a hold of something like that's just nuts.
Yeah, well, a lot of times they'll do it because the player is trying to get clever, and therefore his character is trying to get clever, and that's another top point.
Smarter for their own good.
Smart for their own good, and that's when you have to look at that character's alignment, because would a chaotic good magic user really inflict possible damage upon a hireling so that he could avoid it?
Yeah.
I think so. Especially not lawful good character.
Not lawful good.
But I don't think a chaotic good character would either, because chaotic good is, they're good. They just believe
they're chaotic about it.
They're chaotic about it. They're like, well, let's go around these rules. The end justifies the means, but
which is exactly what he's doing by giving the artifact to Nodwing, so he won't get hurt.
Yes, exactly.
Well, again, that gets into a whole alignment discussion, which is
right.
But generally speaking, I would probably, as a DM, frown upon the chaotic good character who says, "You know what, this could kill me. I'm going to have my hireling do it."
Well, one of the things I think about with the artifacts and relics is when you integrate it into a campaign. I think, I don't know, It's you put the seeds out there in the campaign for looking for something, and you're not the only adventuring party that's going to be looking for this. I mean, there are other adventuring parties that are probably going to hear the same information at one time or another. So I think as a DM, you also should prepare a few, at least 2, maybe even 3 NPC groups that are also pursuing same artifact.
Oh yeah, that's quite possible. You could have a little bit of the old Raiders of the Lost Ark thing going, where it's not just Dr. Jones who's looking for the Ark; it's also Hitler's Nazi party.
Yes, right.
I hate these guys. Oh, sorry.
Nazis, I hate these guys.
That's what I did with my Book of Sorrows campaign. I had the group looking for the Book of Sorrows, which was considered the artifact. I also had the Cult of Asmodeus, who was also trying to find the artifact. And I also had the Cult of the Dragonkind, who was also trying to find the artifact because the dragons wanted it for their possession. So I had 3 factions going after this one book.
And the 4th faction, the Backstreet Boys.
Backstreet's back, all right. Oh, sorry.
They're just looking for their fame,
right?
Which they have lost.
But I think that would make a really cool twist on things. If the adventuring party just say, okay, we got to find all the different clues to get to this artifact, and we'll find it. Sure, we're going to have some conflicts along the way with monsters and traps and what have you, but other adventuring parties, that puts a little twist on things.
Yeah, and you could go even a step further and say it's not even another adventuring party that is racing against you to get that item, but it's the actual creator of the item itself, for instance. And this is giving a little bit away in the game that I run right now. But
spoiler alert, everyone! Spoiler alert.
Yeah, a bit of a spoiler alert, and I know some of my players listen to the game and listen to the podcast. And Vince, if you're going to actually be in that game, but I don't think it's too much away to say that.
Hear you, la 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 la.
Yeah, I'm gonna go la 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 while I talk, yeah. But. No, and Vince actually mentions an interesting thing that ties into it, because he talks about his own artifact that he created for his game, the Book of Sorrows. Well, the DMG is perfectly suited to, you just use the same tables to give your own artifact powers. But in this case, I used an item that is mentioned in the Monster Manual, but not in the DMG, which is the Ruby Rod of Asmodeus. But that said, that's enough I'm going to say about that, other than the fact that I had to think about what was going to go into it. And perhaps it's not just another NPC party going after it, but what if Asmodeus himself would like to have it back?
I would think if something like that was his, he would want it back.
Probably.
Probably want it back. And now you're racing against the agents of Asmodeus, or as we said, and it says in the DMG, Orcus has his own wand that he occasionally just kind of lets slip in the prime-material plane, but after a while, he wants it back.
Yeah. Whoops. Oh, I think I want that back now.
You're holding my wand there. I'd like to have that back, please.
No, mine.
So then it gets into an interesting contest of who does the item actually belong to, because most of these items artifacts and relics are generally not good or evil per se. They're more of a neutral item, but they do have a tendency to instill a longing for the item, which is actually one of the minor malevolent effects of that can be. I tend to use it more as a general effect for almost all items, that you yearn to have it.
Well, I think a perfect example of that is the One Ring.
To rule them all.
Exactly.
Look what it did to look what it did to the Smeagol. He turned into Gollum.
Yeah, it has nice effects. It turns you invisible, but it also turns you into a weaker version of Sauron himself.
Yeah, and it prolongs your life unnaturally, and you tend to, and you want to possess the thing. It becomes your precious.
Exactly. So if you're using an artifact, that's another thing to consider is, if your party is trying to find it, is there somebody else trying to find it? Is it another competing group of NPCs, another NPC party? Is it the creator of the device itself? And when you're talking about artifacts and relics, you're really very rarely, you're not always talking about, just some magic user created it, like, he might do another item. You're talking about gods and devils and archdevils and greater demons, and very powerful things create these. Yes. So if somebody else is competing for it, it may be somebody that's going to be very difficult to defeat.
It's created by the power of Grayskull.
By the power of Grayskull. But Grayskull itself could have been an artifact, the castle, and not all artifacts are going to be, easy to carry around.
Right. Not going to be easy to fit in your pocket.
Well, yeah, Grayskull was actually an artifact. If you think about it, you're right.
Yeah. I think it is, and I think it would very much equate to, say, the Throne of the Gods, which you obviously cannot put that in your pouch, and I don't care if you do have a bag of holding.
Well, you want to talk about an artifact that is something that you just can't hold with one, let alone two hands, is the Machine of Lum the Mad.
Oh,
I mean, this thing is ginormous. If you look at the description of it, it says the machine was used by Baron Lum to build an empire, but what has since become of the ponderous mechanism none can say. Legends report it has 60 levers, 40 dials, and 20 switches. Huh. So it says it's bulky and very heavy, 5,500 pounds.
Oh, bag of holding could carry that. Oh.
Yeah, cannot. Sure, why not? Cannot be moved normally, and any serious jolt will set off and then destroy one of the four functions of the artifact, which can never be restored.
Nice.
It has both of a size suitable for 4-man-sized creatures to stand inside.
That one I always saw. Wasn't that like a vehicle, actually? It was like something from Gamma World.
It almost sounds like it. And if you look at this is probably the one artifact that has the most, or one of the closest of the most different abilities, different things it could do. It has, let me get this straight here. You can have 15 minor benign effects in this thing, 15 minor benign powers, 15 major benign powers, 10 of the minor malevolent effects, 10 major malevolent effects, 15 prime powers, but 5 side effects. So, yeah, it's got all these cool
very
different
powerful.
things. Yeah, very powerful. If not one of the most powerful artifacts and relics in the thing. But given the size of the thing and what it does, I can understand that. So
it is, though, and actually, I've the very first DM I ever had. I remember him telling us about the campaign that he played in, and they had actually come across the Machine of Lum the Mad, and they used it as a dungeon crawling vehicle. I imagine this kind of like, I don't know, multi-legged caterpillar-like machine that they're inside.
Sounds almost like an AT-AT from Seattle.
Yeah, well, essentially, I mean, for the power that it has.
It's 5,500 pounds. What's that? That's like 2.5 tons, almost 3 tons.
Pretty much.
So that's like the size of an SUV.
Mm-hmm. And that, it's interesting in itself because
maybe it is an SUV.
Not all artifacts and relics need to necessarily be magical in origin, although
they don't.
Most definitely seem magical. Like I look at the Machine of Lum the Mad, I think if I were fleshing out all those powers, I would be looking at things that correspond to science.
Yes. Well, the one right below it sounds something like that. The Mighty Servant of Luco.
That's what I was thinking of. Not the Machine of Lum the Mad. I was thinking of the Mighty Servant.
The Mighty Servant of Luco. That thing. If you read the description, it sounds like it's some sort of quasi-scientific item.
Yeah, exactly. And that was actually the one I was thinking of.
Yeah, this one, it says a towering automaton of crystal. I love saying the word automaton. Automaton of crystal, unknown metals, and strange fibrous material. 9 feet tall, 6 feet deep, and some 4.5 feet wide. It almost sounds like it's like a robot, a big giant robot.
Yeah, we always envisioned it as a device that was more like a vehicle with all these, and you could get inside of it and drive it around. But from the point of view of a PC, it would be most magical.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
Well, you could introduce a death machine from Gamma World into your D&D world, and it would be practically a artifact or relic. So it's another route you can go. Now, if you read the Gazetteers, which I'm a big fan of, you know that in Glantry, they have this power called the Radiance. And the source of the Radiance is in itself a artifact. And the more you read about the Radiance, the more you obviously, out of character, realize it's radiation.
Yes.
That's leaking out of this, I think it was a spacecraft or something, which would actually be the source of the radiance, the artifact itself. So again, it's another example where they have taken sci-fi, introduced it into the D&D world, and essentially turned it into an artifact or a relic.
Right.
Which I think is kind of cool. And again, you have to think about, something as powerful as the Radiance or something that can do all the things that the Machine of Lum the Mad can do. That is going to be very tricky down the road if you give that or one of these items to one of your players, because it could very easily break the game.
Well, I think one of the ways that you can get around as far as breaking the game is, besides like other adventuring parties trying to hunt down this, the great MacGuffin, whatever it may be, is there are going to be other powerful individuals in your game world who are want to get a hold of this artifact or relic, other rulers of other kingdoms, or would-be, despots who want to get a hold of these things. And it's not far a stretch of imagination that wars will not start because of one of these.
Oh, definitely.
things.
Wars could be started because of the known existence or the reemergence of an artifact or relic. Again, look at Raiders of the Lost Ark. The Lost Ark, right? That would most definitely be considered. I would call it a relic because in my game, I tend to differentiate artifacts from relics. I tend to say if it was created by a divine source, it's a relic. If it's if it comes from it's still powerful, but it's not so much from a divine source.
More
say
technological.
the Eye of Vecna. Well, I'm thinking more like the Sword of Kaz or the the Eye of Vecna. That I'd probably call that more of an artifact.
I don't know. The Hand of Vecna is pretty powerful.
Oh yeah, anything like that. But
you need the intervention of a god to get that thing off your body.
Exactly. Well, and as far as the power levels are concerned, that's not such a big differentiation. Obviously, a powerful artifact is.
You're just talking like how it was created.
Yeah, I'm just talking about how I differentiate what I call a relic and what I call artifact.
Okay, I see what you're saying there.
You don't necessarily have to do that in your game. I just I don't know. I like to organize things, so that's what I do. But you don't. Definitely, it'd work just as fine if you reverse them, I suppose. But when I hear relic, I tend to think of how back in the feudal days, the Templars and everybody were trying to retrieve the relics, right?
Yeah,
and
the Holy Grail
had their relics.
There was the what was
a piece of the cross, right?
Well. Yeah, the piece of the true cross. What's another one? Well, going on, there's a whole bunch of these things. I mean, going from my knowledge of history, particularly medieval history, and I've actually taken a course on what are from that period of the artifacts and relics of the period, and how a lot of these things came to be, and a lot of them, even when they are acquired or if they're kept someplace, a kind of a cult builds up around them. Because generally it's an artifact or a relic of a saint, and it's kept in a holy place inside a particular area, and they are maintained by particular people within the area, and you're going to have a particular kind of a cult built up around this artifact or relic. And you could probably use the same thing here. Maybe there are people that are protecting this thing. They built up a cult around this particular relic. I mean, well, a good one I would think would be like the Eye or Hand of Vecna. Maybe there are worshippers of Vecna. There's a cult of Vecna out there, and they are protecting his artifacts for his second coming or something like that. They won't fall into the wrong hands and are waiting for the chosen one or whatever it may be for your plot hook. So that's another thing that you can throw into as your DM toolbox to say, you know what? These are just going to be sitting in a dungeon protected by a big bad monster. There might be some organized, organized resistance, but there's an organized effort to keep the artifact safe. Keep it secret.
Totally agree. I think that if ever an artifact or relic were to be unearthed, I guess you would say, it's very likely that there will be stiff resistance from the people around it because, like you said, you could have maybe a remote tribe, is guarding the Eye of Vecna, or say, they're guarding. Maybe they worship the mighty servant of Luco.
Those are worshippers.
Yeah, nobody ever gets into the mighty servant, but they actually worship this device. Is just got cobwebs over it because it's never been driven, but it's got this. It's built up a cult around it, and you're going to have to get. It's like when Indiana Jones finds that golden idol's head, right?
Right.
And, I call them the Chocho, but they're
swear in a way.
They're kind of like the Chocho, right? Well, he doesn't just he not only does he have to defeat all the traps that have been built up around it, he's got to get it past them after he gets it out.
Well, another good example of that, I think it's the movie Beneath the Planet of the Apes. You remember the people who worshiped the bomb, the almighty bomb?
Yeah.
And it was a nuclear missile that they worshipped.
Exactly.
And, there's what happens at the end. Charlton Heston dies, which is rather tragedy. But
the apes are learning. Oh, sorry.
Yes. Planet where apes
Get your hands off me, you dirty.
Get your hands off me, you damn dirty ape.
But,
it's a madhouse.
It's definitely another angle, another hook. And this is why, we said at the beginning that the Artifacts and Relics are really great campaign hooks. And I like to say campaign because I think they're almost too powerful even just to be the hook for a single adventure, I think.
Oh, no, they got to be a campaign arc.
One shot.
One shot?
One shot, one and done.
Yeah, it's like you meet Lolth in the back alley, like in that,
like in the D&D cartoon,
and she just happens to have, But, I think even if you did get it,
okay, it was a low time in Lolth's career. So
yeah,
no, wouldn't that necklace that brought them back in time or whatever? No, the roller coaster that brought them back to time. That would be an artifact.
Absolutely,
that
would be an artifact.
And, here's another thing, too. If it's not the basis of the campaign when they find it, it's certainly going to affect the campaign after they've found it.
Sure, like we were saying just recently, after they find it, word's going to get out maybe one way or another, and other powerful people in the world are going to want to desire this thing, and wars are going to happen.
Remember in Conan the Destroyer? Which wasn't nearly as good as the first Conan the Barbarian, obviously. But remember when they have to find the that jewel, and there's a weird group of evil clerics, I guess you'd call them.
You're talking about the Horn of Dagoth they had to find, I think.
Yeah, that was it, the Horn of Dagoth, which in turn they had to use to get the jewel, right?
I don't remember there was
no, they needed the jewel. They needed the jewel to get the Horn of Dagoth. That's how it worked. That was the scene where they go into that underground temple and the two what was his name?
The wizard's duel that happened
to open and close that one door.
Yeah, that was great.
They found a jewel and they needed that to get the Horn of Dagoth at that other tower. But that would be just a classic example of a band of a cult that has organized around the artifact.
Absolutely.
Now, here's another thing you can do, though, with Artifacts and Relics, if you decide to use one in your campaign. And I do stress, by the way, you probably don't want to have multiple artifacts hopping around. But if you do decide to use an Artifact and Relic, one thing I think that you can do to really enhance your campaign is use that Artifact and Relic to flesh out the religions of your world or the history of your world, because the Artifact and Relic is going to play an important part in either or. So this is another opportunity for you as the DM to really build out your campaign world.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I would think like the religion or the followers of St. Cuthbert would be the ones like today's equivalent of the Vatican preventing everything. So that'd be a good equivalent. Yeah.
And what if you're looking for
St. Cuthbert is an artifact?
Yeah,
what if we're looking for what?
Yeah, Mesa St. Cuthbert, Mesa Cuthbert right here.
Yep.
Word.
It's like the ultimate mace of disruption.
Yeah.
And I like how the DMG also has incorporated some of these artifacts and relics in their own fleshing out of Greyhawk. And you can actually get some info on Greyhawk itself just by reading the artifacts and relics section of the DMG, because they talk about, especially you learn a little bit about the relationship between Vecna and Kaz.
Yes, you do.
Because, Kaz was the bodyguard of Vecna, and Vecna created the Sword of Kaz for him, and the sword over time warped and influenced Kaz to the point where Kaz turned on Vecna, and the two battled it out, and both died as a result of it.
Now, didn't they later on kind of flesh out Koss to be kind of like a vampire lord?
They did. I don't go by that. I never really envisioned him that way, I guess. I first read about that, and therefore, if anything, I see Koss, if he's still around in my campaign, then he's a Death Knight.
Right. Oh, absolutely.
But he doesn't have to be. It's your campaign.
Now, remember, and another thing that when we were talking about campaigns, how a whole campaign arc of these of a particular item, and it also seemed to me, it seems like a few of these items are kind of built to be to where it would almost have to be a whole kind of campaign arc. Like, for example, the orbs of Dragonkind. There are 8 different orbs, and you're not just going to go on a quest for one. You're going to go on a quest for all 8.
What you mean? Dragon Ball? Oh, sorry.
No.
Oh, sorry.
Well, case in point, they did the Rod of 7 Parts. That's
Rod of 7
one.
Parts. There you go.
That's a campaign. It's actually a published campaign.
Mm-hmm. The aforementioned Eye and Hand of Vecna.
You got the teeth of Dalvar Nar.
Yes, the Crown of Might, and there's 3 different versions. There's
Scepter
evil,
of
good.
Might?
There's an evil, good, and neutral Crown of Might.
And there's a evil, I think, because there's 3 matching pairs of the crown, the scepter, and the orb. You have the orb of might, the crown of might, and the scepter of might.
Yes.
But there's actually, and this is one of those rare cases, probably the only case I know of outside of, maybe the teeth of Dalvanar or the Rod of 7 Parts, although those actually kind of add up to 1. But the items of might, about the only time you're going to find an artifact in 3 different versions, I guess you'd say. So there might, but even then, the evil version of the Crown of Might, there's only one of those. There's only one, good version of the Orb of Might. There's only one neutral version of the Scepter of Might. So again, you got to keep track of where your artifacts are if you're introducing them into your game, because obviously once they're introduced, that means they're someplace in your world, and hopefully you remember who has it. And if that person no longer has it, then you're going to have to figure out why that person no longer has it if you're going to reintroduce. I mean, you obviously can reintroduce it into your campaign. It might be lost, Maybe.
I have a question.
No.
Okay.
No, you can. I'm sorry.
No. I got one question is, we have a good smattering of artifacts and relics in the DMG.
Yes.
Now, has there been any others that have been created, like in Dragon Magazine?
Yeah, they have. I believe there's mention of some of the other ones in, I think it was issue 67, 68. I think issue 82 mentions some.
Don't forget the various Roll Aid supplements that made more artifacts, and we've read them before as well.
Oh, yeah, that's true. Okay.
Right, and then of course you have several modules that actually introduce them. I found a really good website actually that there's a person, and he doesn't list his real name obviously, but a person had actually gone and compiled. He'd done really good research. He went in and compiled this list of the relics and artifacts, and then he mentions where they came from. Now I don't, I'd have to double check every one of these to know the veracity of it.
But you know what? That would be something we could put in our show notes.
Yeah, I can.
That would be awesome. That would be a great database.
And, and we can also mention at least his username. I hate to just take his work, and not give him credit for it. But say, like Black Razor, that's a very famous in the realm of D&D, players. A lot of players know if you say Black Razor, they're going to say, oh, yeah, that's the sword that you can find in S2, White Plume Mountain.
Yeah, it's basically the D&D version of... Stormbringer.
Yeah, and then there's Gal's Wondrous Lanthorn from Lost Caverns of Saga.
Zoikanth, yeah. But then again, you do have Stormbringer. If you have the original copy of Deities and Demigods.
That's right. If you do,
Stormbringer is in there and under the Melnibonian mythos,
and so is Mournblade.
Yes.
Another good example of an artifact relic is Stormbringer.
Yes.
This is a sword that gave Elric incredible, this is more than a +1 sword. This is more than a +5 sword. But not everything about it's good. In fact, very little bit about it is technically good, I guess you'd say.
There's like a good 4 or 5 paragraphs on Stormbringer in that version of Deities and Demigods. And I'm looking at it, and it actually is what they say, the huge black rune card blade is actually a chaotic evil sentient being from another plane, which takes the form of a sword on the prime material plane. So it's not necessarily an art. It's actually a living creature.
It's a living entity, and I've read all the Elric books because I was a huge fan of Elric. And, at the end of it, I'm not going to give any spoilers away. I'll just say that it does actually communicate for the first time. I was 1,000 times more evil than you. And it gives you an idea of, where it's coming from. But the idea here is that, and this brings up another interesting thing. Where is the source of an artifact or relic's power? Now, we've already mentioned that the source of that power could be from another dimension, say with the mighty servant of Luco, or the Radiance, but it could also be and this is actually listed in one of the as one of the major malevolent effects, I believe, is that the item itself is either a prison or a shape-changed form of a greater being, and be it a god
Stormbringer
or
right there.
There you go. And so every time you use it. And every time you use those major benign powers or prime powers, then you have a chance of releasing whatever that is in that item or allowing it to resume its own form. But either way, it's not going to be good for you.
Oh, heck no.
So
it's
you have
powered.
to be very sparing.
I know. The artifact is powered by love.
No.
This is why if you do happen to get
Care Bear Stare.
Care Bear Stare. If you actually do, if you're a player and your character is either lucky or unlucky enough, however you view it, to come across and possess a artifact or relic, I would highly suggest you have your character do as much research on that item as possible, because as a DM, I'm not going to tell, no DM should ever tell the player what the bad stuff is, at least. They shouldn't tell them what the good stuff is.
Yeah, I would go as far as saying they're going to hear rumors about a certain powerful thing, whatever it may be. I wouldn't even really reveal the name of it particularly, because everybody's going to know when they hear it. So hopefully they're not going to metagame it, if you know what I mean.
Mm-hmm. Right.
So,
well,
I actually kind of ran into this. I actually kind of ran into this in a way. In my friend Jeff's campaign, there is basically an artifact, a huge artifact. I figured out what it is, and it's not a normal. It's something of his own design. And when I figured it out, because the whole campaign, this is the whole one where we're kind of in realm space. We're kind of doing Spelljammer kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
The quest for Bob. And the quest for Bob. Long story. I'll tell you about it later.
Is it going to be the search for Bob next, or no?
Well, no. There's Bob and Jay, but anyway,
we used to have a god named Bob, and we had his counterpart was the god of Bob spelled backwards.
Bob. But one of the spaces that we went into was monster space, and we thought we had this really cool spell jamming ship and everything, and we ran into King Ghidorah basically. From the Godzilla films, King Ghidorah.
Yeah.
Oh, Ghidorah.
Yeah.
Monster X.
Yes.
Godzilla.
Yeah. And so we found out that someone was designing something that's like a golem, and I pieced it together that it's basically whoever this insane wizard basically made Mechagodzilla.
Hey, yeah. King Kong versus Mecha Kong was on TV yesterday. Just that I thought that.
So I figured this all out because all the different pieces and things that we found as far as clues, and I'm like, okay, we've found King Ghidorah and we think that Godzilla's on there, and there's all these other ones, and I'm like, wait a minute, this guy's making Mechagodzilla. I'm like, no! There's no way we're going to defeat that.
you could have just called Gamera to help you.
Yeah, Gamera.
He is friend of all children.
Yes.
And he's made of turtle meat.
Yes.
You watched that same MST3K I did, didn't you?
Oh, yes, my gosh. Yes. Gamera is really neat. He is full of turtles. Gamera.
What is his deal with traffic accidents?
Why are those little Japanese boys always wearing those shorts? It's kind of creepy.
Oh, man. Okay, well, we diverge.
Anyway,
but I think
I figured it out, and I'm like, that'd be like in the campaign, oh, no, we're going after the hand of an eye of Vecna. Oh, no. Got to be as careful as possible as a DM not to kind of like reveal too much at the very beginning of what you're going on a quest for.
Yeah, unless, of course, there would be one. I would say there's one exception on that rule, and that would be if, say, in the case of Raiders of the Lost Ark, they're essentially looking for the Lost Ark. I mean, they know what they're looking for; they just don't know where it is. So maybe your players, I used the Axe of the Dwarvish Lords one time in a game that I was running, and it was based on the idea that actually, I'm sorry, it wasn't the Axe of the Dwarf Swords. It was it was Queen Alicia's Marvelous Nightingale, and there was a truce between the elves and the dwarves, and once every millennia, every century, the elves would bring the Queen Alicia's Marvelous Nightingale to the dwarves, and it was the dwarven god Moradin who had forged Queen Alicia's Marvelous Nightingale as a gift to Corellon, and it was to seal the truce between the dwarves and the elves, and so the elves would bring the Marvelous Nightingale to the mountain stronghold of the dwarves every 100,000 years, something like that, to have it kind of cleaned, I guess you would say, right? And then they would reseal. They'd have a little ceremony where the dwarves gave it back to them, kind of mirroring Morden doing that for Corellon. But what happens is it gets over there and it gets stolen.
Ooh. And
this could have huge repercussions. Because
dwarves are accusing elves and vice versa.
And the thing is, it's at the point of the adventure, the word has not really spread out to the main elven nations yet or to the main dwarven nations yet. There's only a few people who know about this, but they're worried. It's got to be found before the word gets out.
And Gimli's there yelling, "Never trust an elf!"
Exactly. And then you find out it was a bunch of wild elves who stole it. No, I'm just joking.
Bunch of Grugash, yes.
The Grugats are basically
the goulash of
giving the bird to the rest of the elves and dwarves. Now it's ours. Who's rich now?
Ha ha ha.
But basically I turned it into more of a mystery type one where they had to find out, somebody stole it. It turns out it was actually agents of both the dark elves as well as the what are they? The dark dwarves. I forgot what Durgar.
The Duger.
Yeah, and so basically it ends up with the party facing off against agents of both of those races who want a war to erupt between the surface elves and dwarves.
Ah, very cool.
But the idea being that the party is more or less told up front what it is that they're looking for. They're even given a little bit of background on what its powers are, but even the elves and dwarves don't know the full extent of its powers because it's never actually been really used, or if the last time it was really used was so long ago that even the oldest elves no longer remember. They just know it needs to be found. And once it is
There's
found,
one guy that say, "Did anybody write this down ever?" You know,
exactly. And while Queen Alicia's Marvelous Nightingale tends to be one of the more less malevolent artifacts out there, I think, at least it is in my game. Even then, the party gets it. Do they want to? Even then, the beauty of this clockwork bird, is so much that they have to make some saves if they're actually going to give it up.
I just had another question that popped into my head about these artifacts and relics. Has there been any sort of maybe table or article on creating artifacts and relics, how you can make them?
I don't think I would never let a player character make one unless.
No. I'm not talking as far as a DM.
I was going to say as a DM, I might let them do it, but
no. I'm talking about not having them create it. I'm talking about having as one of your toolkits as a DM for creating an artifact or relic.
A step-by-step guide you're looking for.
Yeah, like a step-by-step guide, maybe some tables, some charts, and stuff like that.
Oh, like how you become a lich?
No, how to make an artifact and relic for your campaign.
Oh, you mean from an out-of-character perspective?
Yeah, I'm talking as a DM.
I've never seen anything like that, but the closest thing, I think it'd be pretty easy. You could simply use the same 5 tables that you see in the DMG for the other ones. You could randomly roll how many malevolent effects you're going to give it, how many minor benign powers, how many does it have a prime power. Or as a DM, even more easy, you simply use your own best judgment and you pick from you could pick how many and then roll what those are based on the tables, or you could actually just hand pick what you want this to have. But if you do it that way, and the DMG actually does talk about creating your own artifacts and relics, now that I think of it. If you are going to do that, the DMG is very clear on this. Be very careful how you do it. Again, put a lot of thought into it because you do not want it to unbalance your game. And if you do it, don't forget to give it away like a nemesis power, basically, something that can destroy it, because all artifacts and relics can be destroyed by one thing. They're impervious to everything else.
I love the one where it says, like, under the foot of an ant.
Yeah, of a humble ant.
Yeah.
Or it must be slammed shut in the gates of hell.
Yes.
The gates of hell must be slammed. Or a triple iron golem.
Doomed for where it was forged.
Exactly. Stepped on by a triple iron golem, and I think they even name it. It was. Here it is. Talos, a triple iron golem. That would be cool. I'd like to introduce Talos into it.
Yeah, that's an artifact almost in itself.
Yeah, or it could be dropped into the well of the worlds, and lost, buried under mountain of thunder. But there are ways, here's one I liked. How about this one? Disintegrated in the putrid ichor of Jubilex's deliquescing flesh.
Yeah. Well, it's like it says, drop it into or bury it beneath 1, the well of time, the abyss, 2, 3, the earth wound, 4, Adonais is deep, 5, the spring of eternity, 6, Morion's trench, 7, the living stone, 8, the mountain of thunder, 9, 100 adult red dragon skulls, or 10, the tree of the universe. Now, 9 of the 10 of these, that's a whole campaign on what the heck those things are.
Sure.
Or 8 of the 10.
Just finding the thing that will do it.
What the heck is the well of time?
Well, how are you going to find to sear it in the odious flames of Geron's destroyed soul? Now, that is very interesting, in fact. I really like that now because I'm running a game set in the Nine Hells. That brings up whole areas of, like, do the Archdevils, are they like liches? Do they have phylacteries that keep their actual soul? In this case, their heart.
All right, I guess that's going to wrap up the show today. I think we've covered this quite enough. What do you guys think?
I think we've covered all the major areas that I know of.
Yeah, I think so too. I think there's some really good nuggets of information for everybody to hopefully use in their campaigns.
Okay, cool. So I guess that's going to be keep it original, keep it old school, and good night, everybody.
Good night.
Good night, everyone.
The Roll for Initiative podcast is a production of Wild Games Productions in association with D20Radio.com. You can visit us at rfipodcast.com or contact us on our forums at osrgaming.org or even by calling us at 570-865-4210. This podcast is produced for entertainment purposes only. All other uses are prohibited. And remember, if your magic missile spell doesn't automatically hit, you're playing the wrong edition. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time on Roll for Initiative.